Hello and welcome to Nomifactory. Today I want to make the tall distillation tower, which distills the severely steam-cracked naphtha that we have here. The next thing I want to do after that is to set up some early titanium production so that we can get our first EV machines. Before I build this tower, I like to take a look at the manual in here. In JI you can see there is a multi-block pattern, even for the distillation tower here. When you only have 2 outputs, it calls for a 3 high tower, which means when we have a 12 output distillation tower, we will need to have a 13 high tower, blockwise. It needs a maintenance hatch, 12 output hatches in our case, an input hatch, this energy hatch here, which we will do either 1 or 2 high voltage hatches, depending on how fast or slow it is. Ours will also need a output hatch for items, because this will produce small piles of carbon. I thought this one did as well, but it's only the last one here for severely cracked naphtha that produces carbon. But I will get into building it, and if there's something you don't understand about it, just post down in the comments and I'll try to explain it better. Let's get into building it. I'm just hooking the tower up to power down here. I will make sure that there's space for adding another energy hatch if this is not fast enough. And we have an energy converter here at high voltage, which we will turn. And get some power here from the system. It requires some maintenance here. Now we just need something to put in here, which is this steam-cracked naphtha that we did the last episode. And we should be able to hook this up to the ME network. Let's see here. And get this severely steam-cracked naphtha in here. And this should actually, yeah, this makes the distillation tower work. And it probably won't work for long before one of the top hatches here fills up and it will stop working again. Since I don't have flight yet, we will have to noob tower up there. Welcome to the top of the distillation tower. We are very high up here. Here we can see that methane has already clogged up here. So we will have to do something about that. The solution I've come up with is to make 12 of these super tanks here and place them on the outputs. And if one of them clogs up the other outputs here, if this one clogs up, the other ones won't produce because the whole distillation tower will shut down. Then we place a super tank on here and we buffer 8,000 buckets and oh, I'll tower back up. Okay, where was I? I think I was saying something along the lines that these can store 8,000 buckets before they fill up. And when they fill up, we can void the excess here by clicking this button, excess void, fluid voiding enabled. And this means that we have 8,000 buckets at our disposal, but it won't fill more than that. And if it does fill more than that, it just gets voided, and the other ones will keep running up to 8,000, and then the same thing happens with them. We do this in order to avoid having production shutting down in case of we use one liquid more than another in the factory. The liquid won't output into the tank unless you take the wrench and right click on the side of the tank here. This is because it doesn't allow liquid in on the same side as the tank has its output. So I just throw the output to the side here, and I take my fluid storage bus and put it on the left of the tank here. I partition it so that only methane can go in, and I put it to a high priority because this is our main storage of methane at the moment. I do the same thing with all of the liquids. I finished up with the tanks here and the fluid storage buses, which I all set up the same way as the methane here. The only thing we need to make it keep running now is to give this fluid interface the steam cracked naphtha back. And this should just run until one of these super tanks fills up, which will be the ethylene or the methane, because we are getting the most of those. I think I actually forgot to void the excess, but I will go back and do that when it's needed. I think ultimately the bottleneck of this production here is a fluid drilling rig, but it doesn't need to be very fast at the moment because this is a passive process and we will be getting a lot of fluids over the next couple of days of playing. Until I start using them, of course, then it will become a problem. And we might have to add another fluid drilling rig or even look at a higher tier of drilling rig. But for that we will need titanium, and I haven't made that yet. But we will very soon. I'll just connect the fluid storage buses here to the ME system. And we should probably get a fluid interface terminal to be able to see if we have all these liquids connected. Don't even think I have a pattern for it. I should have probably made it a long time ago, but I just haven't gotten around to it. Yeah, I'll just make a pattern and craft it up. Let's see here, if we have a lot of fluids we don't know of. Yeah, these are the fluids that we have. Let's sort by number of items. We have a lot of hydrogen, as I suspected. A lot of chlorine. This severely steam cracked naphtha we have a lot of, but it's dwindling because we are distilling it all, so that's a good thing. The water here is buffering, and that's because I just made a dirty setup here for automated water. It's just an Endeavour with a fluid storage bus. It's not the best, but that's what I did to get water into the cutting machine in here. My next goal is to get a little bit of titanium up and running, and we will probably use our blast furnace here. At least the coils to craft up a blast furnace that can run the titanium recipe. I think we need to be at, let's see here, I'm not sure. We need to be at HV with cathode coils in order to make this recipe. And this blast furnace here runs at EV, so that's fine. I'm not sure where I will set it up, probably in this quadrant here. Or maybe I will make a quadrant here, outside here, and make the titanium module. Because this one here I want for more blast furnaces. Yeah, I think that's what it'll do. I start off by macerating some ilmenite ore here, which is a good early source of the rutile dust we will need to make titanium. You need to crush it into this crushed ilmenite ore down here. Then you need to purify it. And then when you have purified it, you throw it into another macerator and it will give you a chance of rutile dust. And the ilmenite here, I think we can put that in the blast furnace and get more rutile dust together with some wrought iron. So ilmenite is definitely the way to go right now for titanium. It's a bit pricey. I bought it with Nomi coins and it needs quarters. But that's the price we'll have to pay right now. Later we can get the ilmenite from something called microminers, which are these small things you send into the microverse together with some rocket fuel and some items that are specified here. And then you get a lot of ores and different other stuff. It's a good way of generating resources that can't be produced with DEML. I'm just figuring out the design right now. I want the blast furnace right here. And then I want to put the chemical reactor that we need close to the input and the electrolyzer close to the output, so that we make a compact build here, so that we might be able to use some of the space for other processes. I built everything at high voltage and I actually made 2 high voltage energy hatches, so that this will be able to run a little bit faster, about twice as fast at EV. If we take a look at the process here, we take some of the chlorine that we are making and some of the carbon dust, which we also have on passive, and then the rutile dust, and combine it in a chemical reactor where we get carbon monoxide, which we will probably store in a super tank, and this titanium tetrachloride, which is what we put into the blast furnace with some magnesium, and we get a titanium ingot and some magnesium chloride dust. The magnesium chloride dust we can use to get back all of our magnesium and all of our chlorine, which means that the only thing that goes into the system here is some carbon dust and some rutile dust, which gives us titanium. So it's not that expensive, it's just getting the ilmenite and then processing that down to rutile and then putting it through this system, which we will make automatic by pulling out the rutile dust from our AE system and then putting it automatically into this system here. This, of course, needs to be a fluid input. I moved around the hatches and buses a little, and I think I've settled on this design here, where we put the advanced chemical reactor here and the electrolyzer next to it here. And then the magnesium chloride we get, we pull out of the output bus into this and then extract it into the chemical reactor, which extracts the titanium chloride into the input hatch, and then it cycles. For the rutile and carbon dust, we extract from the ME system via a ME interface, and the carbon monoxide we get from electrolyzing these magnesium chloride dusters. We put into a super tank and put a storage bus on it. We extract from the bottom here the rutile dust. Let's just say buffer 8. And the carbon. And there we buffer 16. We need to make it a limited item filter here so that it won't overflow with one of the items. And then of course set it to extract, always active. And insert on brown. The next thing we need to do is plop down a fluid conduit and filter. I always filter the inputs here so that it doesn't mess up. We filter the titanium tetrachloride here. We insert on blue. Extract on blue here, always active. The process needs the magnesium. I think I'll make this a input bus. The magnesium is easily acquired by buying this magnesite ore with Nomicoins and then smelting it up into the magnesium here. And we don't need that much, we only need something to prime the process with, because when we electrolyze the magnesium chloride dust here, we get all of the magnesium back. And the chlorine we can get from our super tank here. The chlorine we extract from this machine here, the electrolyzer, on purple. And then we need to insert it into the chemical reactor. Let's say on purple. And we'll filter it for good measure. Like so. And the last thing we need to do is to extract the magnesium from the electrolyzer. Let's say on cyan. And insert on cyan. I know I'm using different channels here, and it shouldn't be, it isn't needed with the filter here, but I just like to put it for good measure. The fluid storage tank here, we insert the fluid on blue. Let's see here, on blue. And filter it for carbon monoxide here. Like so. Let's see here. Yeah, that should be correct. We obviously put a fluid storage bus on this and connect it to the ME system. And if I give this power and prime it with magnesium, this should be a self-containing system. The only thing we use is rutile dust and carbon monoxide. Sorry, rutile dust and carbon. And the carbon we get easily over there. We passive that over at the alloy blast or alloy furnace setup, the last episode. So that shouldn't be a problem. We could electrolyze this carbon monoxide for some oxygen, and like it would self-contain the carbon dust as well if we electrolyzed it, but we have a easy source of carbon, and we will be using carbon monoxide later, so I chose not to electrolyze it. Let's hook this up to power. Connect it here. And put a energy converter, let's say here. Nothing exploded yet, but it isn't connected. Let's connect to see if it sounds like it's working. Need the ME connection here. And the energy here. I The chemical reactor is at least working. Seems like it's a slow recipe. Let's see here. This is getting the carbon monoxide. The input hatch is getting the titanium. Why is this not filling up? This should be getting more rutile. Yeah, we messed something up here. This should be an extract, and it's getting it here. Let's prime it with magnesium and see what happens. Nothing. Does it need a... Why is this not working? HV, cancel. It has maintenance problems. Oh, that did something. It's pretty fast, actually. I figured out why this isn't working. It's the same problem as before. We need to allow input from output side. And I think this cycles now, as long as we have carbon and rutile. I will monitor it a little and then I'll come back. As you can see right there, the vacuum freezer is turning on, which is a very good sign. And if we're lucky, we have titanium here. We do, our first titanium ingots. That's so cool. Ah yes, the quest didn't count because we haven't had rutile in our inventory. Or the tetra... This bucket here. This fluid we haven't held yet. So we will need to do that to complete the quest. There we go. That's the quest. Should get a quest for the ingot as well. That we don't need to hold, at least. Yes. Titanium. This chemical reactor here is bottlenecking us a little, but this should be passive titanium as long as we have rutile dust in our system. But I think this is a good place to wrap up the episode. We did two very good things in terms of progression. We finished up the oil setup here, at least for the Naphtha. We steam cracked it last episode, and this episode we distilled it into its various fluids here, which we will be using in the coming episodes. We also made our first titanium ingots over here in this setup. I think it turned out pretty well. It's very compact and it works. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this episode and you found it useful. At least this is the way I do it. And you probably can do it in another way, but this at least gives you an insight into how you can make titanium and how you can store the fluids from the distillation tower. I hope I'll see you in the next one. I hope you enjoyed it. Bye bye.